Hello. Can I ask you for an introduction of yourself?
My name's Lance Koehler. I am a drummer for No BS Brass, and I run, started and run minimum wage recording.
Hmm? And can I
Um,
ask kind of where you grew up and where you came from, where you lived?
I was born in Texas, grew up in California, Southern California, and then proceeded to move around the country to lots of different cities, travel, doing music, and ended up living in New Orleans for 5 years, right before moving to Richmond, and I started minimum wage in New Orleans and continued it here. Um, yeah, now I'm getting ready to leave Richmond.
Right. Um, can I ask kind of what is your musical background and just like when did you start getting into music?
I started dabbling and learning how to play various instruments when I was maybe like fourth grade-ish or something like that, like acoustic guitar, flute, recorder, um, and then I got the option to get a drum set when I was. Well, I guess I played snare drum in the school band as well, but then I got an option to get a drum set when I was maybe sixth grade, and yeah, just stuck with that.
Hmm.
That became the thing.
And then how did you start getting into your band?
I mean, I've played in a billion bands throughout the years.
Hmm.
And after I moved up to Richmond, I really missed the New Orleans tradition.
Hmm.
And I played in a brass band here, but it wasn't kind of suiting my, like, the creative needs. They were, primarily just trying to play covers of New Orleans
Hmm.
stuff, and which is great. But I wanted to play in a band that was a little bit more modern and focusing on original, new music, and the fact that Richmond is like especially back then, was a super like punk rock and rock and roll town. We sort of brought that element into it. Um,
Hmm.
yeah,
Well, now that you're thinking of leaving Richmond, do you think that kind of Richmond style will change?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's already changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's been so many people coming into Richmond that it's like this. The musical palette is like super broadened, and I mean, there's certain things out of the old Richmond that bred rock and roll and punk rock and stuff like that, that I don't think really exist here too much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's gotten a little. It's a pretty tame city now.
Yeah, I can feel that. I know. I lived in Richmond for a while, and I'm actually living in Chesterfield. Very different.
Yeah.
So I don't know really anything about the Richmond music scene. Um, I wanted to ask more about the Richmond music scene. What was it like when you first came here?
I mean, tons of great music. The jazz scene was super strong. Always
Mm-hmm.
been super strong. Still is basically. But the punk rock scene was outstanding, like super vibrant and really great. And I did a lot of really awesome records in that genre here. Um, my place is like geared around people playing live and stuff like that together, so you get that energetic experience rather than single tracking every instrument one at a time, real studio like. So people like jazz musicians and punk rock musicians gravitated towards here because that's the way that stuff was supposed to be played.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I was most impressed with those two scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as far as I know, there wasn't much of a pop scene I mean, kind of, but a lot of weird cross-pollinated bands,
Mm.
and now there's more of a pop scene here now, which is just kind of reflective of 25 years later.
Right. And there's also like VCU right nearby.
Oh yeah,
Is there a reason that the studio is so near VCU, or did that just kind of happen?
that just happened.
Okay.
Yeah, I fell into this neighborhood. Thank the Lord, because
Mm.
I love it.
Hmm.
I don't love it as much anymore because VC is a little bit of a pain in my rear, but it was really great because I was near the jazz department, and
Mm.
especially at that time there was like incredible musicians coming through there.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of students coming through here?
I do. Uh, I feel like more so years ago, and it's sort of lessening. Because I feel like a lot of students are like more apt to like record modern music where you can record certain things at home and stuff, and where before it was bands that needed to come in and play live together and stuff. But yeah, I've had a lot of VCU classes. Used to come in once a year, and the whole class would come in and do a tour and interviews at the studio, and certain there's a couple. The VCU jazz department brings some of their improvisational students over here and records them at the end of every semester. Um, so yeah, there's a connection.
Hmm. I I guess so, since it's so close. And also, I wanted to ask more about the background of the studio, where it began, how it began.
Yeah, I mean, I've been recording all my life basically since I was, in high school, um, and I just sort of gravitated like started recording myself, and my bands that I was with said, "Hey, that sounds cool. You should record us." And then friends' bands asked me, and then it sort of snowballed into the point eventually where I was like literally having to just call in sick work to record people. So I made the jump and stopped working
Hmm.
for anything other than myself.
Hmm.
And the equipment came along as it gradually. But when I first started actually doing it as my day job, I was in New Orleans, like a block off Frenchman Street, which is now like the Music Street. It's like what Bourbon Street was in the 50s or something like that, like long time ago. Um, but yeah, great location, like right up 2 blocks outside the French Quarter and a block off Frenchman Street. It was an awesome little spot. I got to run there for a year or two before moving here.
And then, is there a reason why you decided to move to Richmond?
A girl.
Oh.
Yeah. Um, yeah, she transferred from UNO to VCU
Hmm.
and came up here, and that pretty much exploded pretty quickly. But I liked Richmond, so I stayed.
That's good. And where did you learn kind of the technical training for, owning a studio, doing sound engineering?
I mean, I started, like I said, just dabbling on my own. Like getting little 4-track recorders and starting to do that. But then I got, you know, some school learning, like when I was studying music in college, and took a couple years of sound engineering. It was like a much different. All the equipment is so much different back then. I mean, I'm 53 years old now, so it's like that was my early 20s. So technology has progressed a lot. Um, but yeah, I learned that, and then I was also doing a ton of studio drumming. I lived close to Los Angeles, and so I was doing a ton of studio drumming, and I was just absorbing the studio atmosphere while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Watching what the engineers did in sessions and picking their brains any chance I could get, learning that way,
Mm-hmm.
and then just doing it.
Right.
So a little bit of formal training, mostly just practically figuring it out.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you've kind of been in a lot of cities around the U.S.
Mm.
Do you think they differ a lot in terms of their music scenes?
Yeah, totally. Um, yeah, uh, Portland, Oregon, in the '90s, obviously the grunge thing was huge, and that was crazy. San Francisco's got a little bit of everything, and a great jazz scene, but it really has everything. San Francisco is incredible, um, and New Orleans has the, the traditional jazz, um, and just a great art scene in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those are the places I spent the most time in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I absorbed a ton of that stuff, and I think what I liked about all of them is they were all very raw art
Mm-hmm.
forms, nothing too polished. You know, the product of the band. There was always an element of danger in all the music, and it wasn't super clean and safe.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the music that you yourself make, what would you say is kind of the genre or the style of it?
Um, I do my own solo stuff, which is really like recording experimental, but deep emphasis on lyrics, and it's, for lack of a better word, a little more poppy, but experimental as well. But then No BS is, we're a brass band, and it's, for lack of a better word, it's jazz. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
There doesn't have to be much to it. I mean,
yeah. And then I play in a lot of like some rock bands and stuff like that, and more indie experimental type bands.
mm-hmm. And what would you say kind of differentiates this studio from others in the area?
I think the atmosphere, the it's musicians walk in and they're just instantly like comfortable. They don't feel like they're scared to set their drink down somewhere, or um, sort of like being at their practice space, but they can hear it themselves better, and they're just comfortable. And that, and the fact that the band can track completely live together, um, which other studios can do, but I think a lot of them end up single tracking things, when it comes down to it. Um, or a lot of this, like the majority of what you hear on a record from this place was a band just playing together.
Mm-hmm. And where did you kind of think of the name of the studio?
I mean, like literally that evolution that I was talking about, going from having to call in sick to work to it was like, well, if I can make minimum wage, doing what I want to do rather than going and working for somebody else, I'll do that. And actually,
Mm-hmm.
the prices back then was minimum wage.
Mm.
You know, I can't remember what my first price per hour was, but it was basically minimum wage.
Mm-hmm. And I know even to this day, it's still much more affordable than a lot of other studios. Is there a reason that you decided to do that?
Yeah, just my goal was always to let people on a small budget spend more time doing a better product rather than rushing through something because they didn't have the money to complete it the way they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
That was always it. I mean, recording and making any kind of art takes some time. There's experimentation that has to go on, and if you're in a studio where you're watching the clock because your bank account, like, you don't get the time to experiment. Because you're just like, we got to get out of here. We got to get it done. So yeah, that was kind of my goal always.
And why do you think it is important to have music making kind of more accessible to people on a budget?
Um, I mean, for lack of a better answer, poor people usually make better music. They've got you more interesting stuff to talk about, and more time maybe to put in. There's probably a lot of reasons, but I think in general, poor people probably make better music.
So do you think if maybe like music making was, say it was like completely subsidized by the government, would the world be better?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, there's some countries that could do that. They subsidize their musicians. They'll pay their street musicians and stuff like that. And I love that idea so much. But I can't wrap my head around it because that is not the way we roll here.
Not in America. All right. This one might be a little very broad, but what do you think is the point of music?
I think connection at a bottom line, expression and connection. It's something that since the dawn of time, musicians have always been the people, the translators of ideas. Whether you speak somebody's language or not, you always speak music. I've got the opportunity to like travel playing music a whole bunch, and I can speak no other languages. I barely speak our own here. I was like, but when you're around musicians, it's never a problem. Yeah, because there's always that common that common language.
And what is kind of your personal purpose for making music?
Therapy. Like it. I think, especially when it comes to writing, it's about working out ideas, problems, triumphs, whatever, like anything. And connection. Expressing yourself and hoping somebody gets something out of it, the same way that I've got so much out of other people's music. Yeah. So.
Right. And is there a particular reason for kind of the visual design of your studio?
Not really. I mean, it comes from starting. I like colors, and I like I like creative stuff, and I like being creative and just making stuff. But the studio also comes from not starting with any sort of budget too. So using a lot of found materials and stuff like that, and just being creative with it.
So it's like a reflection of just your personal.
Yeah. So,
I like the eggs.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. A friend of mine made those, and they are great.
Yeah.
Great sound diffusion.
Oh, functional. And what would you say you like about Richmond, the city? I know you said you liked it, but.
Yeah. I think what I liked most when I got here, and it's not so much this way anymore, it was extremely affordable, and that allows a music and art community to thrive. it's definitely not so much that anymore. But I think that's reflected in what musics are kind of happening too a little bit. But you know, I like I like the grittiness of it. I like, even though it's a totally fucked up history, I like the fact that you can feel history in the sidewalk and in the cobblestone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love the James, and I'm, you know, 3 blocks from it, so I can go down to the river anytime I want,
Mm-hmm.
and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. And I guess once you move out of Richmond and kind of what do you envision for the future of your studio?
um, gonna build a really sweet studio um, in the country
Mm-hmm.
and have accommodations for folks to come out and spend time, spend a week recording a record or whatever, and just really focus on the music and, you know, not necessarily like, you know, be like take a lot of musicians away from their day to day lives where they can sink into the music and not be so worried about getting somewhere because you're out there and you're out there in the country. You gotta
Mm-hmm.
just gotta dive in and stay there. I think I'm looking forward to that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever see like retiring in your near future, or do you just want to keep going?
Yeah, no, I mean this is what I do. I don't know what else I would do. Like,
Right. And um, do you have like a specific philosophy or set of values that guide you and in like your business and your music?
um, I think I mean just the Boy Scout stuff, honesty, you know, um, just having some morals and code of ethics in what you're doing. Treat people kind. Always remember that it's their project, not yours, and I'm here to translate what they're doing and get it into a source that can be relayed to the public. Um, but it's not my band. It's not my project. I'm here just to help translate their vision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And what would you say kind of happens on the daily in this studio? Like, what is your role in it?
Um, Herding cats.
Hmm?
Like, yeah, just um, yeah, trying to communicate um, either verbally or just kind of through sight and telepathically, like what a musician is feeling and what they might need to get it comfortable and a better performance, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, just try to make people feel comfortable so they can do what they're doing. You know, do what they do the best they can.
Mm-hmm. And I guess more about this connection that you have with other musicians in the area and wherever you've been. Um, who do you kind of collaborate with in the community?
All kinds, like total cross spectrum of all of music. Are you looking for specifics or
Specifics or like general groups? Just
yeah,
anything.
I don't know. Like you know, done a lot of great punk rock records. A lot of really great bands. And then like more modern bands like jazz stuff. Like I play with No BS Brass and we record all our stuff here. Butcher Brown does a lot of stuff here. They're an incredible newer jazz band. A lot of bluegrass.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Um, a lot of singer-songwriter stuff as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you would call it, but somewhere along the Americana lines. And yeah, I used to do more rap, but I don't do as much anymore. I think most of those cats can take care of what they need in their bedroom or their house, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Um, yeah, just there's like a really wide selection of pretty much any genre where people actually want to play together is what I do here.
Mm-hmm. And would you say it's mostly like bands that come through here or individuals?
For the most part, for the most part it's bands, but I do a lot of solo artists as well,
Mm-hmm.
singer songwriters that and maybe I'll play drums on the record or play a couple of the instruments or something like that, but kind of help them produce the record. But most of all, it's bands.
Would you say it's like a really wide demographic, like age,
Yeah.
gender, race?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I mean, um, I had somebody in here a handful of months ago who was like killing. He was writing killer songs. And he's like 9 years old,
Huh?
um, and just rocking on guitar, and
Wow.
they were really good songs. And then I've got a lot of clients that are probably nearing 80 or something.
Mm.
So
Oh
like
yeah.
it's all over the place.
Mm-hmm. And would you say kind of the music you listen to is similar to what you make?
Um, yeah. Um, or at least elements of it are. I think like I'm always trying to listen to stuff that I um, don't listen to,
Mm-hmm.
or haven't listened to,
Mm-hmm.
even if I don't like it. You know, like I'll put it on the radio even and just like when I'm in the car and just like listen to stuff that I don't like just because there might be this one moment that I didn't do like,
Mm-hmm.
and Spotify algorithms and stuff like that. Uh, yeah, just grabbing ideas, and then taking elements of that, and they weave their way into your songs, kind of.
Mm-hmm. What other ways do you find kind of inspiration?
Mostly being outside,
Mm-hmm.
being down at the river,
Yeah.
um, riding my bike, driving the car is always a great place to meditate and um, get some ideas flowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. I think.
Oh, and then just wake up in the morning and just playing piano, drifting around on the piano for a while with a cup of coffee before your mind is really awake is it's another good spot to be.
Do you play any other instruments?
Dabble, but just enough to
Mm.
write. But I play piano,
Okay.
guitar, bass, you know,
Mm-hmm.
do the singing and stuff. But
Would you say?
just enough to write my own tunes, really.
Do you have a favorite, maybe besides the drums, or is the drums your favorite?
I don't think I have a favorite. I like them all. Like drums is what I'm best at, so
Mhm.
that's always fun. Um, but I think sitting down at the piano is, as far as just being on your own, is one of the most satisfying things.
I agree.
Yeah. Are you a piano player?
um,
Nice.
I've been trying to learn in college, and
Nice.
I played the violin way back, but I'm just trying to get back into music, getting
Cool.
very interested in it. Um, do you know much about the soundscape of where you're moving to?
A bit. It's a lot of bluegrass type type stuff. But there's also JMU is really close, so there's in Charlottesville as well. So there's a lot of jazz stuff going on as well. And I have a lot of clients that come from both Harrisonburg and Charlottesville, all the way. They come here to Richmond to record. So yeah, I imagine it's going to be a cross, but I think Stanton itself is you know probably a little bit more rootsy.
Mm.
But I'm also talking out my ass because I don't really know. I actually am. As I was saying that, I was thinking about a couple friends I know that play more gritty rock and roll stuff that live in Stanton. So, and some friends in a band called Shag Wolf are from that area, and that's a really heavy band. Not metal, but very, very heavy music. They're from there, so I imagine it's probably everything, really.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like Virginia in general is very
yeah,
out in the open.
totally.
All right. I mean, that's everything that I have prepared for you. Is there anything you think I should know about you, about your studio, about your music?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you too. That's fun.
I'll just stop this.